The move that put this area on the map was the episode of Magic Mountain. We made a lease deal for the land with SeaWorld. They couldn't raise the capital to develop the park, so we raised $30 million by issuing 6% debentures. We brought Magic Mountain here partially by accident. There were problems with the operation, and eventually, SeaWorld sold out to Newhall Land and Farming. The transaction failed to solve all the problems at the vast amusement center, and ultimately, the Six Flags Corporation bought the park from the company. Under pressure from multiple lawsuits, following a series of accidents in 1978, and as the park continued to grow, Newhall Land and Farming was looking for a way out. The company was not in the business of operating a theme park, and they were looking to sell to a company that was. In May of 1979, a tentative sale was on the table. The Great Southwest Corporation / Six Flags Corporation offered $53.2 million, $15.9 million down, and the rest to be paid over the next 7 years. Newhall Land and Farm wanted to go back to what they knew and use the money for real estate, oil, and gas properties. Six Flags had a track record of success, which did not go unnoticed by Newhall Land and Farming when assuring the public that the park was in good hands. Dating back to 1957, Six Flags created 3 parks, the first one being in Arlington, Texas in 1961, the next going to Austell, Georgia in 1967, then Eureka, Missouri in 1971. Six Flags then turned their focus to acquiring existing parks, taking over Houston's Astroworld in 1975 and New Jersey's Great Adventure in 1977. Magic Mountain, with its 2 world-class coasters, growing community, and great weather, was an easy target for the chain. The hourly employees were optimistic about the change, but there was some apprehension at the top. They were right to be concerned. Several members of management were either laid off or returned to Newhall Land and Farming, including park president Terry Van Gorder. Dan Howells assumed the position of general manager and announced some immediate changes. For starters, $6 million would be invested over the next 6 months for park improvements. This would help make the park more family-friendly, investing in new shows and attractions. Magic Mountain was famous for its musical acts, but Six Flags envisioned variety shows with a Western and circus theme, and that's exactly what they brought to the park as early as that summer. Howells recognized the park was teen-oriented and wanted to balance out the activities to attract families. This also meant there would be no more alcohol sales at the park. They didn't want to ignore teenagers or young adults either. They put on a disco dance contest for 27 nights in the summer of 1979, with $10,000 in prizes at stake, as well as expanded the Galactic Laser Experience show. There was one more significant change: the name of the park. The president of Six Flags, Ned DeWitt, announced that the new name would offer a greater appeal to the public, and given their good reputation in the industry, it was important to let the public know of Six Flags' connection to the park. It would henceforth be known as Six Flags Magic Mountain. Six Flags wanted to find ways to make the park more affordable, and rolled out an introductory price for their season pass at just $19.95 and $6 tickets after 6 p.m., a savings of $2.95 off regular admission. They also took active measures to get more families into the park, offering one flat rate for a carload of up to 6 people, and free admission to kids with each paid adult ticket. Getting more foot traffic in the park was important, but many guests would come up to the star attraction and find it shut down. Six Flags noted they didn't want any of their rides to have more than 20% downtime. Colossus was operating at 50%. The park was hit with yet another lawsuit in July from a guest who had rode Colossus the prior summer, claiming it gave her cuts and bruises on her legs, and was seeking general damages, medical costs, and compensation for loss of income. Colossus was already closed for refurbishment when Six Flags acquired the park in June of 1979, so Six Flags announced a complete overhaul. At the cost of $2 million, all 10,000 feet of track was replaced, and 10 of the 14 hills were either raised or lowered. They would also replace the trains, weighing in at 1,700 pounds, compared to the 3,000 pounds of the old trains. All this was expected to make the ride smoother and more reliable. After being shut down for 6 months, Colossus reopened in December. Colossus had been a problem for the park since it opened, but there was another problem that Six Flags would have to deal with that was just getting started. On the night of July 28, 1979, a 16-year-old boy was stabbed to death in the arcade section of the Contempo Pavilion. It appeared to be retaliation for another gang-related murder. This led to a decision to increase the park's security presence, as well as the beginning of talks to bring metal detectors to the front gate. Anthony Harris tried to assure the public, "We are working right now to guarantee that this will not occur again. Our park will not be an arena for gangs." That Saturday also saw 12 people arrested at the park, on charges ranging from trespassing, to possession of alcohol, to possession of drugs. Six Flags needed to nix this image of the park if they wanted to keep drawing in families. By the end of their first year, they announced the removal of two of the park's original rides, Galaxy and El Bumpo. These were sold to a Korean amusement park company, and a live dolphin show was said to be a replacement. This would be part of a 1,500-seat aquatic theater that would also feature divers, log rolling, and a golden retriever act. There would also be a brand new 1,200-seat marionette theater. In Galaxy's place would be Buccaneer, a swinging ship. Six Flags was making drastic changes, and started using the tagline, "We're building a better mountain." The second energy crisis of the decade didn't faze the park much. This one was caused by the Iranian Revolution, but didn't have much effect on oil production. Memories of the 1973 crisis led to price hikes, and long lines at the gas pumps. But Dan Howell cited the increased price of gas could help the park, as locals may choose to have their fun closer to home. With fuel on everyone's minds, the park even installed gas pumps in the parking lot for the convenience of its guests. 1980 was Six Flags' first year running Magic Mountain, and they worked hard to mix up the entertainment. For kids and families, there was the Wild West Rodeo, an eating contest, and the Dolphin Show. For the teenagers and adults, there was the DJ Pop-Off contest and Hollow Weekends, the park's Halloween event. The park was also featured on NBC's Everywhere show, raising its profile, and welcomed in celebrities, like the Los Angeles Lakers' first overall pick in the draft, Magic Johnson, and continued to book major musical acts, like rock and roll legend Chuck Berry. Just 2 years after acquiring the park, Six Flags unveiled their new slogan. No longer are they building a better mountain. We built a better mountain. This coincided with yet another $6 million expansion plan. This one to make the park 1/3 larger than it already was, including 2 new rides, a Mexican-themed plaza around Revolution, and an expansion of the walkway to allow guests to walk all the way around the park. This expansion officially made Magic Mountain the largest park in Southern California, surpassing Disneyland. One of those new rides was the Fiesta Dance, a Selner tilt-a-whirl, and the other was Roaring Rapids, a 1,200-foot Intamin water rapids ride. As excited as the park was about Roaring Rapids, the rollout was an embarrassment. It was open for a day and a half before county inspectors asked it to be shut down. The brand new electrical equipment that's used to pump 1.2 million gallons of water throughout the ride had not been certified for use in LA County. The park said the worst thing that would happen in the event of malfunction was the stream would just stop, but the county did not want to make any conclusions until it was tested. The inspection period for the county could be weeks or even months, which the park could not afford. They paid $6,000 to a private firm to fast-track the inspection, which took a matter of days, and the park tried to keep disappointed guests happy by handing out coupons taking $2 off the $10.95 admission price. After being open for a day, and then closed for the next 7, the ride was finally cleared to open. Roaring Rapids was a big hit, and so was country western star Loretta Lynn. And on July 18, 1981, the park hit capacity. 43,000 people jammed into the park, with cars spilling out of the parking lot, backing up Interstate 5. Park officials closed the gates at 5 p.m. They had to wait for people to leave before letting anyone else in. In a time where other amusement parks were looking at disappointing numbers, blaming the air traffic controller strike for the lack of travel, and bad economic conditions for reduced leisure spending, Magic Mountain posted a 25% increase over the summer attendance from 1980. As a park spokeswoman said, "Business is just marvelous." For the whole year of 1981, the park saw a 10% increase, from 2.4 million to over 2.6 million. It was also a shining light for youth employment, but nobody else seemed to be hiring. During this time of success for the park, Six Flags was put up for sale. It was owned by Penn Central Railroad, who simply wanted to change their focus to other areas. The buyer was Bally Manufacturing, out of Chicago, a major manufacturer of slot machines and arcade games, having to spring $142 million for the sale. Bally was impressed with the current management and didn't plan on making any changes. There was early speculation that Bally would be much more aggressive than Penn Central in investing in capital improvements and adding new rides and facilities. 1981 marked the end for several rides, including the Jolly Monster, the Dragon, the 99 Steam Train, and the El Dorado side of Eagle's Flight. The chairlift ride had a rocky history up to this point, with the newlyweds falling from the ride in 1978, and then another incident in 1979, where a group of teenagers rocked the car so much that the ride jammed, leaving riders stranded for 3.5 hours. The Galaxy side of Eagle's flight would remain. The El Dorado station would be repurposed for a brand new thrill ride in 1982, the world's first true freefall ride. Built by Intamin, riders would be taken up 128 feet and then dropped with nothing attached. The ride would be called Freefall and would open in June. This was part of a shift back towards appealing to teenagers, which included an all-night schools out party on June 17th, where the park was open from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., as well as brand new entertainment, a BMX bike show, a tribute to Led Zeppelin, a show featuring the legends of rock and roll, and then country stars 2 months later, Johnny Cash in the fall, and something for a slightly older crowd, a soap opera festival, where stars could perform to the live audience and then do meet and greets with fans. Park GM Dan Howells was promoted to corporate, and Richard T. Miller took over his position in the summer of 1982. He was optimistic about the park's future under Bally Manufacturing, as well as the park's ability to expand beyond its current borders, and even mentioned early preparations for the Olympic Games, coming to Los Angeles in 1984, bringing visitors from all over the world. But he did come in with legal problems hanging over the park's head. The parents of the 16-year-old boy that was stabbed to death in 1979 sued the park for $9 million, citing lack of security that could have prevented the attack. There was also a disabled man that was told that he couldn't ride Revolution because he was unable to walk, leading to a $50,000 lawsuit for punitive damages, and the park to change their policy for disabled guests. The park said the policy came from safety and evacuation concerns, and that they do not charge disabled guests admission to the park. The court rejected their motion to dismiss the case. The park also said goodbye to Mountain Express at the end of 1982. The Schwarzkopf Wildcat spent 10 seasons at the park, but it was packed up and shipped off to a park in El Paso, Texas. In its final months at the park, a man suffered a ruptured disc in his back when the car slid down the lift hill before catching the chain and starting back up. They would sue the park successfully for $151,000. But the park had something new up its sleeve. A giant man-made lake, 4.3 acres, 8 million gallons of water, and the location of a new collection of shows and activities for the park. The main attraction would be a water ski show, called the Wizard of Mystic Lake. It would also be the staging area for their fireworks shows. This was part of a $5 million expansion that included a new park entrance and a brand new ride next to Buccaneer, the swings they called Swashbuckler. The park also raised cash by opening a computer discovery center where guests of all ages can get some hands-on time with computers, many of them for the first time. Chrysler also signed on with Magic Mountain, displaying their vehicles inside the park. When a baby was born in their dolphin exhibit, the park found a chance to reach out to the public, starting a contest to name the newest member of the Magic Mountain family. After nearly 1,000 entries were considered, the dolphin was named Slick. The park continued to book major musical acts to keep people coming back, including Three Dog Night, Tina Turner, and a brand new band called REM. 225,000 people attended concerts at Magic Mountain, making it one of Southern California's leading concert venues. And as if Colossus wasn't intimidating enough, it also started running one of its trains backwards. The biggest boon to the park in 1983 was the release of National Lampoon's Vacation, a comedy starring Chevy Chase as Clark Griswold. The premise is that he's taking his family on a road trip to visit the amazing theme park called Wally World, which was filmed at Magic Mountain. Revolution and Colossus were prominently featured in the film.
The moose says you're closed, I say you're open.
2.75 million guests came through the gates in 1983, and Six Flags was looking for more. They had invested $23 million in capital over the 4 years they'd been in charge, and were looking for a big 1984. As Richard Miller mentioned when he took the reins of the park, the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles was going to flood the city with tourists, and they wanted to capitalize on the opportunity. The Winter Olympics came first, held in the city of Sarajevo, in the country then known as Yugoslavia. And in May, the park debuted the Sarajevo Bobsled, a bobsled coaster built by the same company that brought us Freefall, Intamin. This trackless coaster featured sleds rolling through a trough. There was also a new multimedia show at the Magic Moments Theater called The Spirit of the Olympics. They had their new attraction, now they just needed the guests. Early on in the year, there was concern across the entire Southern California amusement industry that Olympic tourists would not be interested in visiting the parks. And to make it worse, their presence in the city would make their normal local patrons want to stay home due to the traffic. Magic Mountain extended their hours to midnight during the Olympic Games and tried to appeal to guests by pointing out that they were the only park in Los Angeles that was far away from the Olympic commotion. As the summer progressed, the campaign changed. If you've been thinking about bringing your family to Six Flags Magic Mountain, there's no time like the present, because the Olympic crowds just haven't shown up. But our loss can be your gain. Smaller crowds mean shorter lines. There were reports that Colossus's line, normally at least 90 minutes, was down to less than 15. When the dust settled, Magic Mountain's attendance plunged more than 10%, with Disneyland suffering a 20% loss. For the first time in 50 years, you could walk into the chicken dinner restaurant at Knott's Berry Farm and be seated right away. The park saw their attendance rebound immediately after, and Magic Mountain threw a successful Haunted Mountain event for Halloween. 1984 also saw the important Six Flags acquisition of Marriott's Great America in Gurnee, Illinois, which gave them the rights to the Looney Tunes characters. For the first time since its opening year of 1971, Looney Tunes would dominate Magic Mountain. Children's World would be transformed over the winter, and in May 1985, Bugs Bunny World opened up. The new land cost nearly $500,000, equipped with 14 rides, some new and some rethemed, including the Rabbit Kadabra Magic Show, spanning over 6 acres of land near the front of the park. When the kids got bored with Bugs Bunny World, there was a new show that year that exploded in popularity, the Chinese Acrobats. But on the other end of this wholesome family fun was a dark side, and unfortunately, it would dominate the narrative about the park. On June 22, 1985, in the early hours of the park's all-night Schools Out party, violence broke out between two gangs. When it was all over, 6 people had been stabbed, 4 security guards had been assaulted, and 21 people were arrested. This incident blew up in the media, and the park went into damage control mode. They downplayed the frequency of violence in the park, and vowed to increase their security presence, including better fencing around the perimeter of the park, more lighting, and looking for potential gang members coming into the park. This effort would not come without controversy down the line, but the park did not want to be known as a hotbed for gang violence, as that would make people steer clear of the park. Their all-night party in September included more strict security measures, and there were no issues, but they weren't rid of gang violence. 20 people were arrested the following spring when members of the Crips and the Bloods clashed at the park. Richard Miller would step down as vice president and general manager, replaced by Joseph Shalaki in April of 1986. At the same time, the Sarajevo bobsleds were being packed up and sent off as soon as they arrived, and a brand new coaster was going up in its place.
Introducing Shockwave. If you think you can take it, stand up.
Like the bobsleds, this would also come from Intamin, this being a looping coaster called Shockwave, standing 90 feet tall, maxing out at 50 miles per hour, all while riders are standing. It was the first of its kind to come from the Swiss manufacturer. While Shockwave satisfied the thrill seekers, music lovers could enjoy the Magic Music Jam at the Showcase Theater, and the park drew in celebrities from 60s television, with characters from Leave It to Beaver, The Brady Bunch, and the Partridge Family making appearances. The park's reputation may have taken a hit, but not enough to hurt attendance. The park brought in 6% more in 1986 compared to 1985, thanks to Shockwave, the Chinese Acrobats, a new marketing plan to draw people from Orange County and San Diego, and the introduction of the Twicket, where guests could enjoy 2 consecutive days at the park for the price of 1. The removal of Sarajevo bobsled and the introduction of Shockwave gave guests a fresh reason to visit the park, bolstering Six Flags' new experimental plan. This was known as the Ride Rotation Program, where the chain would install rides on flat plots of land across its parks, only to pick them up after a few years and send them to another park, marketing it as a brand new ride. The Sarajevo bobsled would end up at Six Flags Over Texas for the 1986 season, known as Avalanche. Shockwave would have the same fate, being removed from Magic Mountain after 3 seasons, and being moved to Six Flags Great Adventure for the 1990 season. In April 1987, Six Flags changed hands once again. Bally had owned the chain since 1982, but sold it to West Ray Capital for $350 million. Bally wanted to concentrate on the casino and gaming industry, and Six Flags no longer fit in its business plan. The next month, Magic Mountain opened their new thrill ride, one that was meant to simulate the feeling of flying like a fighter jet, just like Maverick from the new movie Top Gun. This was Z-Force. This represented almost half of a $3 million investment on the west side of the park, a 100-foot tall looping ship that featured a stall at the top, hanging its riders upside down. The entire back section of the park would be rethemed. The Electric Rainbow was now Turbo, and Himalaya was now Subway. Enterprise was renamed Reactor. The park would also introduce a new pizza parlor, as well as an after-hours dance club, requiring 200 extra jobs, and they were having a hard time filling the spots. After Memorial Day, as the summer season kicked into gear and kids were getting out of school, the park was 600 workers short of its 3,200 employee goal, causing some rides to be shut down. Offering jobs at $3.60 an hour, the park had to resort to sending recruiters to local high schools, as well as reaching out to retirees and housewives. The park was growing in popularity, becoming the 10th most attended park in the country by 1987, and was even used as a bargaining chip when Santa Clarita was fighting to become a city later that year. The park continued to get big-name acts, like the Charlie Daniels Band, and continued to spend big money just like every other park in the region. Knott's, Universal, and Disney were all pouring money into more and more expensive rides. And in December 1987, Magic Mountain announced Ninja, a $5.1 million suspended coaster, built by Aerodynamics. This would not be the first of its kind, but it would be the fastest, hitting speeds of 55 miles per hour, starting at the top of the mountain and then winding its way down to Jetstream's lake. Magic Mountain ended 1987 with a 1% jump in attendance, up to 2.8 million for the year, and were hoping for a big 1988, but they got more than they bargained for. The park's efforts to curtail gang violence led to what a park spokeswoman called an aggressive security posture, which included more scrutiny for guests wearing known gang identifiers. In March of 1988, the NAACP filed a discrimination lawsuit against the park after some black members of a Christian youth group were given what they called a degrading search. The following month, the ACLU filed suit against Magic Mountain after 4 Latinos were denied entry into the park because one member of the group was wearing a Midnight Cruisers shirt, which the guards said resembled clothing favored by gangs. While the park was wrestling with these lawsuits and their security practices, their brand new coaster, Ninja, was drawing in massive crowds. But it hit a snag on October 2nd, when it flew around the final curve too quickly, and the train crashed into the catwalk handrail, injuring 2 people and stranding its riders for almost half an hour. The park shut the ride down to improve the braking system on that final section. Despite the mishap, they were having a record-setting year. This was helped by a late-season addition, the 112-foot spinning ride called Condor, and that was open for Thanksgiving weekend. They ended the year with 3.1 million guests, a 9% increase from 1987. Investment continued to pour into the park, as Tidal Wave was announced for the summer of 1989. The 50-foot Shoot-the-Chutes water ride was deemed the wettest thrill ride adventure ever conceived, soaking riders on the boat, as well as anyone standing on the exit bridge. Tidal Wave represented the park's 4th water ride, after Logjammer, Jetstream, and Roaring Rapids, and was part of a water ride trend in Southern California, with Knott's Bigfoot Rapids and Disneyland's Splash Mountain debuting around the same time. Part of Tidal Wave's appeal was the big, spectacular splashdown. Not only was it visually appealing, but it drenched everyone, which is the whole point of a water ride. 1989 was deemed as a lackluster tourism summer for Southern California parks, with Magic Mountain announcing steady attendance for the year, welcoming in new musical acts to the park, like Paula Abdul, as well as Monster Truck Madness for a weekend in May. Rumors surfaced later in the year that Paramount Communications were interested in buying the park. Officials from Six Flags would not comment, but Paramount sources indicated that there was interest, but any kind of deal fell through. Six Flags would hang on to Magic Mountain into the 1990s, a decade that would propel the park further into the spotlight. And it all began with a brand new beast, unlike anything the park had ever seen up to this point. But it wouldn't be the last. Thanks for watching episode 2 of this 5-part documentary. If you could drop a like and share this video with anyone who may be interested, I would really appreciate it. This is far and away my biggest project on the channel, and I appreciate any support. Stay tuned next week for episode 3, as Magic Mountain is thrust into the coaster war, and records start getting smashed.